Phones are all times out if the guys don't speaking. You must touch the green button in the middle.
We're trying to figure everything out as we go, sis. This is our first time. So please, everybody, please bear with us. It's going to be a learning process. Ego, will you please make sure that got shared in your rooms?
If you want to speak, you must touch the button in the middle.
To unmute, right?
I should not have to do that. You guys should be able to hear me without me touching the button.
Yep, I can hear you.
Where are the rest of the dragons?
I just sent the link.
Sean? Okay. I think I have everything together as well. Go ahead, sis.
In Telegram are the microphones all times muted. You need to touch the button in the middle, then you can speak. Hold it and speak.
I think that's just for you, sis. I don't think anybody on my end has to hold their green button to speak.
No, we don't. We just have the option to mute or unmute so that we don't get the background noise while somebody else is talking.
Touch the blue button in the middle now. The big button. Touch it and speak, please.
Yes. It's I'm unmuted, so is Danny.
Can you not hear me, sis?
Eagle. Can you hear us?
I can hear you. I can hear you, Chris. I can hear you just fine, though. Okay. There's Nova. Allow to speak. Nova can now speak if he wants. Yeah, so every time they come in, Chris, and they have like their red microphone next to them, you have to hit it, allow them to speak. I hope that you're able to do that since you're an admin. You should be able to.
I think so.
But it will make it really, really hard if somebody wants to talk and I can't like see to unmute them, which is going to be whatever it is. Whatever.
Guys, here is no one muted. That is from Telegram because if many guys in one room, if the microphone don't is muted, are the backgrounds in to hear. So you need to, if you want to speak, so to push the button in the middle. Simple.
Thanks, sis. And I believe I can mute you as well, and so can Chris. I think all she has to do is just hit your avatar and hit mute, and you're muted. Do you have that capability, Chris?
Let me try it. I'll try it on you, Eagle. 1 second. I'm not muting you on purpose. Let's see. Yep, I have that option.
Okay.
I have the option to mute, send message, or remove. And then what is the... Let's see. Okay.
Only admins should have that capability, I hope.
Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Okay, go ahead and let me know when you're ready to start, Chris, and I'll just start and we can record this and try to figure out where we're going to upload it. Since we don't have the voice chat capability or the video chat capability yet, we're going to just have to do this for now and see what's going on.
Okay.
See if it'll work.
Yep, it should work.
Thank you for joining us, everybody. This is Mother. I know it's been a really long time since a lot of you guys have heard from us, but we are still here. We have been extremely busy with everything going on, especially with child sexual exploitation cases skyrocketing since COVID, and it's not getting any better. And now that it's summertime, it's only gotten a lot worse. Not to mention we have the border crisis going on and a lot of children being orphaned by COVID, actually. There's quite a few things that need to be discussed about what's going on in this country right now, especially with the children, but not just all of the children that we are now being forced to take care of with our tax dollars, but our own children, American children. We're having missing children cases are going through the roof right now. These kids are being kidnapped and they're not being found. Okay. I can tell you exactly what I think is happening with these children, but it's basically the same exact thing that's happening with the children across the border. They're being trafficked. They're being trafficked by the cartels because the cartel is bringing these kids over as well as illegal immigrants, and they are picking off our kids and taking them back across the border. So it's kind of like a trade. Situation. They bring 15 kids here and just take one of ours back. It's a lot easier to just take one American kid back than it is to take a few of them. American kids, I don't know if you guys have heard stories about American kids that have been kidnapped and then escape. They are fighters. They speak English and they will do anything they can to get home. It's very hard to trap them unless you get them across the border to a place where they have no way to access any of their family, no phones, anything like that. A lot of them don't make it. Who is doing that?
God, I'm sorry.
Everybody mute your voice so that there's no background noise, please.
Okay, so in the past week alone, there was 2 big operations. One took place in New Mexico, and the other one took place in Florida. Right now, along the border states, we're having a huge increase in human trafficking arrests, as well as missing children being found along the border. These cartels are operating on our side of the border. There are houses being found right now where children are being housed and trafficked right in our backyard. This is happening and it's happening every single day. And these operations have gone full-fledged. And almost every single day, I'm hearing about a new operation where missing children are being found. Illegal immigrant children are being found and trafficked. It's literally gone out of control. Just last week, 78 missing children were found in New Mexico. A multi-agency operation led by U.S. Immigration Customs Enforcement, as well as HSI and the United States Marshal Service, resulted in the recovery and/or location of 78 missing minors in the past 2 months in that area. HSI, La Cruces, and U.S. Marshal Service, the District of New Mexico, in collaboration with the New Mexico State Police, La Cruces Police Department, Donna Ana County Sheriff's Office, Anthony Pullman Department, Sunland Park Police Department, the New Mexico Children, Youth, and Families Department, along with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, got together with a NMAGO, which is a nonprofit organization, and initiated Operation Rescue Me on May 1st. The enforcement action focused on locating and recovering missing children in Donna Ana County, New Mexico. And yes, these were missing children. These were children that had either been reported missing from their families or also from foster care centers. Also, the same time last week, 29 more victims were rescued and 363 human trafficking arrests took place in Florida alone. 29 victims were recovered, 31 traffickers were identified, and a total of 363 arrests took place during the task force Operation Breaking Chains. So Operation Breaking Chains, as well as Operation Rescue Me, yielded over 30 victims of human trafficking rescued, and a lot of them were missing children. I've spoke about this before and about where missing children are usually found. And in this country, missing children that either run away from foster care, or just don't get reported missing, which does happen quite a lot, end up being sex trafficked. It's a fact. And when organizations such as NCMEC will blatantly come out and tell you that that's what's going on, that's what's going on. So what is happening right now in this country is we are having hundreds of thousands of unidentified alien children coming across the border with no family, no parents, and nobody to take care of them. They are either put into our foster care systems or they are given to a sponsor. I'm going to talk a little bit about these sponsors later and exactly who they are and what they have been found doing with these kids. Children in this country are being ripped away from their parents, good parents in good homes, at such an alarming rate that hundreds of parents, state by state, have gone so as far as creating counter kidnapping organizations to stop Child Protective Services from legally kidnapping their kids. On top of that, 88% of missing kids in this country that are found in child sex trafficking rings came from the foster care system. So they're taking these kids out of good homes, placing them in foster care, and 88% of kids found in sex trafficking rings come from that system. Not only that, we are now shuffling these hundreds of thousands of minors that are coming across our border every day into these foster care systems. Obviously, they're broke. Obviously, we have a serious problem with NCMEC. When NCMEC comes out and says that our foster care system is helping sex traffic children. There has been multiple reports about this coming out, and the problem here is we haven't even dealt with fixing the Child Protective Services departments in so long that it's completely out of control. Children are dying in state custody. No, we cannot obtain the records for their deaths, how they died, if they were abused, nothing. It's all confidential information. No, it's not. These kids are dying in foster care and nobody's telling us how or why. A lot of the times these kids are abused, beat to death, or worse. These foster care systems are not good, and they do not vet these foster parents good enough. That's a fact. These kids are being placed with sex offenders, child molesters, and pedophiles, and they're being abused in these homes, and then they're forgotten about. And then when they report the abuse, they're just shuffled into another home over and over and over again until finally they turn 18 years old and they top out of the system and they're basically just kicked out on the streets. When a child that is in the foster care system gets to be of age, that's it. They're out. The state isn't going to do anything else to help them. It doesn't matter if they have a job, somewhere to go, anything like that. The state is no longer responsible for them. Therefore, they have to get out of the homes. Where do you think a lot of these kids end up? These 18-year-old kids end up with nowhere to go. They end up on the street. A lot of these women end up on the street selling themselves for money and end up being victims of human trafficking. They're 18 years old, have no life skills, no parents, nothing. Basically been abandoned by the state. And America has set up a system to sex traffic kids. And nobody has done anything about it until President Trump. And the focus should have been on DCF, the Department of Children and Family Services, as well as HSI, Department of Homeland Security, and everybody else that helps deal with these kids when they come across the border in droves. That didn't happen. Our foster care system is broken, and that's where all of these kids go. It's no wonder why they keep getting abused and end up on the streets. And even though Senator Rob Portman introduced legislation in 2017 to amend an antiquated 1996 law that was substantially enacted to protect freedom of expression on the internet, Senator Portman's bill describes allowing websites operators, most predominantly Backpage, to facilitate the sale of sex with victims of sex trafficking. In many cases, the victims are children. Rob Portman's introduced this bill into legislation after it was found that the Obama administration's HSI department was placing illegal immigrant children in the care of sponsors that ended up being human traffickers. Frontline ended up doing a big story about this. There was a congressional hearing about it. These kids were brought over here by human smugglers, promised a better life. Their parents paid, the titles and deeds to their houses to get them here. These kids got here, were turned over to the Department of Health and Human Services, whose job it is to place them with a relative or an adult sponsor. That is the job of DHS or HHS when these kids get here. Their job is to find them a sponsor or a family member. If they can't find either, these kids go into the system. But during the Obama administration, when the border crisis,
Are you there?
Yes, we are here.
first
Danny,
the federal government, can you guys hear me?
you just muted out for a second. Start back
Okay,
from
sorry.
like maybe 30 seconds ago.
Okay, well, during the Obama administration, the Department of HHS, which is Human Health Services, that's who takes these kids in when they first come across the border. As Human Health Services, they get these kids, and it is the Department of Human Health Services' job to place them with a relative or an adult sponsor. They cannot find a relative or an adult sponsor, they end up in the foster care system. But during the Obama administration, when we had the border crisis going on and these immigrants were flowing across the border, HSS was so overwhelmed, they began to relax their standards for vetting these sponsors for these kids. First, the federal government decided to stop fingerprinting most of these sponsors who were coming in to claim these children, and decided to stop requiring that sponsors submit original or certified copies of their birth certificates. And then finally, they stopped requiring FBI criminal background checks for many of these sponsors. Do you have any idea what happened to these kids? We basically turned these kids straight over to human smugglers and human traffickers and sex traffickers. Since they relaxed their laws, they weren't fingerprinting, they did no background checks. Basically, these sponsors were allowed to go to HHS, tell them that they were here to sponsor a child, give a child's name. Of course, all they had to do is get that child's name from a trafficker that brought them over here. Say, I'm here to sponsor this child. They pick, HHS releases the child to this person with no criminal background checks, no fingerprinting, not even really knowing who these people are. And they ended up in the hands of human traffickers and end up having to enforce labor for 16 hours a day on our egg farms in Ohio. To this day, I still don't know if anybody has been prosecuted. I know that nobody from Trillium Eggs paid for that. I know that they just lied about it and covered up and said that they didn't know that they had 14, 15, 16-year-old kids working 16 hours a day in sweltering heat, passing out from dehydration, not being fed, being crammed in tiny little mobile homes, 12, 13 at a time, with no running water, no showers, no food, nothing. That's where these kids were housed. My question is, now that DHS and HHS is so overwhelmed with all of the kids that are coming over every single day, what kind of laws have they laxed for these sponsors in order to pick up these kids now? Are they requiring criminal background checks on these sponsors to come and pick up these kids yet? How about fingerprints? Do we know who or where these kids are ending up? They're our responsibility, right? Come to America, we're going to take care of you, come for a better life, all that good stuff, all that jazz. We have no idea where these kids are ending up. That's a fact. Now, I'm going to read you some very staggering numbers of the amount of children that have been released to these sponsors by state just in the past couple months. These numbers are staggering, especially after what I just said. We have no idea who these people are. We have no idea who's picking these kids up. We have no idea if they're being taken care of, where they're being taken, nothing. They're just being shuffled from whoever to whoever and brought into the interior of the country, and nobody has any idea where they're going. This is a huge problem. So far this year, and this is what it says about unaccompanied children released to sponsors on the Office of Administration for Children and Families website. It says when a child who is not accompanied by a parent or legal guardian is apprehended by immigration authorities, the child is transferred to the care or custody of the Office of Rich Refugee Resettlement, or ORR. Federal law requires that ORR feed, shelter, and provide medical care for unaccompanied children until it is able to release them to safe settings with sponsors, usually family members. While they await immigration proceedings, these sponsors live in many states. Sponsors are adults.
You're muted again.
I got
Jenny.
muted.
Yeah.
Somebody muted me.
Well, no, I think it might just be like the phones or something, or the system
Okay.
like is, but I could hear you now.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
Sponsors are adults who are suitable to provide for the child's physical and mental well-being and not engage in any activity that would indicate a potential risk to the child. All sponsors must pass a background check. Like I just told you, we all know that's not true. The sponsor must agree to ensure the child's presence at all future immigration proceedings, which they never have because they are children, and if they do not show up for them. Just letting you guys know. They also must agree to ensure the minor reports to ICE for removal from the United States if an immigration judge issues a removal order or voluntary departure order. HHS is engaging with state officials to address concerns that they may have about the care or impact of unaccompanied children in their states, while making sure the children are treated humanely and consistent with the law as they go through immigration court proceedings, that they will determine whether they will be removed or repatriated or qualify for quote unquote some form of relief. HHS has strong policies in place to ensure the privacy and safety of unaccompanied children by maintaining the confidentiality of their personal information. These children may have histories of abuse or may be seeking safety from threats of violence. They may have been trafficked or smuggled. HHS cannot release information about individual children that could compromise the child's location or identity. So, like I just said, we will never know where these children are, where they're going, who they're being given to, and at what rates or numbers. If these people have criminal histories, we won't know any of that kind of stuff, you guys. Absolutely nothing, because it's all confidential information, even though our tax dollars are going to take care of these children. Okay. The total number of unidentified children released to sponsors in the fiscal year of 2021, from October 2020 to May 2021, in the state of Alabama, 810 children were given to sponsors. In the state of Alaska, 1 child. In the state of Arizona, 263. In the state of California, 4,405. In the state of Florida, 4,683. Georgia, 1,727. How about Louisiana, 1,221. Maryland, 2,236. New Jersey, 2,330. North Carolina, 1,809. Texas, 6,398 children were given to sponsors. Virginia, 2,200. From October to May, there has been over 44,265 children placed with sponsors. We have no idea who they are. That's 44,000 children. And that's who's been given to sponsors. That's not the children that have been placed in foster care. That's not the children that have no documentation whatsoever and managed to get smuggled across in a tractor trailer, a train, the back of a car, whatever. We have no idea what happened to those kids either. And you notice where they're taking these children, the states with the highest number are all Republican states. Weird. Texas, Georgia, Florida. And these are also the states that have the highest number of human trafficking victims and cases, as well as California. So why we are giving children to sponsors at this high number of at this high of a number and rate in these certain states is really beyond me. And since we have no record of anything, we will never ever find out who these kids are with, if they're being abused, if they went from a sponsor to foster care because they were found being abused. We will never get any of that information. We will also not get any of the information leading to them being trafficked or having to do forced labor. We will never get any of that information. Not to mention that globally, from March 1st, 2020 to April 30th of 2021, it is estimated that 1.134 million children experienced the death of a primary caregiver, including at least one parent or custodial grandparent, during COVID. They wrote in a report published in the Lancet Medical Journal and added that another 1.56 million children experience the death of at least one primary or secondary caregiver. Kids who lose a parent or caregiver are not only immediately stressed, they are also more likely to suffer disease themselves, to be abused, and to suffer poverty, the researcher said. These are very severe consequences. We have over 1 million children right now that have been orphaned by COVID. We have no idea what we're going to do with these children. They have nobody. And not only do we not know what we're going to do with them, the state doesn't know what they're going to do with them either. Any state, any country. They didn't have any plans for this when they planned this big, huge pandemic of what they were going to do with all of these kids, or did they? They're all going to end up in our foster care systems. They're all going to end up being, just kind of left to themselves, because that's the kind of exponentially growing, and that's the cases that they know about. And since so many children never say anything about the fact that they were sexually abused or assaulted, we really don't know the true number. Most Americans who are victims of sex trafficking come from our nation's own foster care system. It is a deeply broken system that leaves thousands vulnerable to pimps as children and grooms them for illegal sex trade as young adults. We have failed our children by not fixing the systemic failures that have allowed to happen to the children for decades. Most people don't know about our nation's foster care to sex trafficking pipeline, but the facts are sobering. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children found that of the more than 18,500 endangered runaways reported to NCMEC in 2016, 1 in 6 were likely victims of child sex trafficking. Of those, 86% were in the care of social services when they went missing. The outcomes of law enforcement efforts against sex traffickers repeatedly support the NCMEC estimate. In 2013, the FBI did a 70-city nationwide raid, and 60% of the victims came from foster care or group homes. In 2014, New York authorities estimated that 85% of sex trafficking victims were previously in the child welfare system. And that's where we're sending all of these kids that are coming across this border, is right into our welfare system. The essential failure is how we care for these children. As NCME CEO told Congress in 2013, children in foster care are easy targets for pimps. They are most susceptible to the manipulation and false promises that traffickers use to secure their trust and dependency. These children have fractured safety nets and few alternatives. Child welfare systems can, but often do not, prevent that reality for children. Pimps rely on that. So since we have failed to fix the system, and sex traffickers as well as pimps know that the kids in the system are vulnerable and that we're not doing anything to fix it, they literally are preying on these children. And we're basically allowing it to happen by not fixing the system. But we keep acting like it's working, especially when we open up a welfare state for hundreds of thousands of children that we have no idea how we're going to take care of. I have given you guys all the opportunity to speak. So if you guys want to say anything, please go ahead and share. Your guys' mics were turned off. We're trying to figure out how I'm just going to be able to make it so you guys can talk when you guys want to or ask me questions. But for right now, I just turned your guys' mics back on. So if you guys want to speak, you guys are able to do that. Christine, would you like to cover some of the stuff happening online for me, since that's mostly your research?
What do you want me? Which part you want to cover?
The stuff that's happening online during the
sure.
pandemic.
Sure. Okay, hold on 1 second. I just sent a link into the chat, and this article is really, it says it all. Let's see. And basically, it's the truth. People just, they don't want to talk about it. Like, how many times have you dropped something to somebody in a room or something, and they're just like, I don't want to see it. I don't want to know about it. I don't want to think that dark. I don't want to whatever. You know what I mean? They don't want to talk about it. And that's half of the problem right there. So the increase in report tracks in the United States and abroad during the pandemic, experts said, tips to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, the clearinghouse for such information in the United States, nearly doubled from 6.3 million in the first half of 2019 to 12 million through June of last year, 2020. It's even more now. It's probably like triple. And since they've realized how easy it is and they get away with this stuff so easily, they're not going to slow down. They're going to continue to do this. They're going to keep doing it, and they're going to keep getting away with it until we all call them out. And there's basically no laws in place to stop this. So they get away scot-free, except for the few here and there where they can identify, and you might see an arrest here and there that comes offline or online, but it's a big problem. It's the majority of them get away with it, so they continue to do it, and that's why it's probably tripled by now. So let me finish here. Online child exploitation right now is probably one of the biggest problems from a crime perspective in our country. This is from a lieutenant in New Jersey, their ICAC task force. Many millions of images and videos of children and even newborn babies, which is one of the biggest problems. That there's so many of these young children. That is really the big problem. The babies are being raped and abused right out in the open, right on camera, right? Like we mainly hunt on Twitter, and I'll tell you, these accounts, it's no secret. Like, they're not locked, they're not censored in any way. You can easily just be scrolling your timeline and it'll be right there. So children coerced into performing sex acts on camera, that's another big problem. That goes along with these grooming cases where they end up basically blackmailing these kids. Once they get them to provide video, photo, whatever the case may be, to these people under the guise of they're a friend or whatever, they're a peer. They're really not. It's an adult, and they're taking these photos. Once they have the photos or the videos, they can then blackmail them and say, if you don't give me more, if you don't give me, get videos of your friends, your siblings, They make them abuse them and send the video, and that all ends up online. So
not only that, but these kids know how bad it is, and they know that these pedophiles will pay them for images of themselves.
yes,
So they
that's a
have
big problem too.
started selling images of themselves performing sex acts either on themselves or another teenager for money.
Or child even.
Because yeah, or another child, a sibling, a relative, and they're filming that and they're selling that material. Children
Yes.
are
And so
now doing this.
in our position, what do we do? Now we have to turn that over to NCMEC, no matter what their age is. If because for one, we don't know. They may say they're a 15-year-old. Is it really a 45-year-old? And they're just, it says in their bio that they're 15, or it says on their tweet that they're 15. No, we don't know that. It's a shame that we have to turn kids over to law enforcement for doing these things, if that's the case. But we have to. There's no other option. We
can't be sure.
The only thing we have to do.
We don't know if it's a child selling themselves and images of other children that they have gotten other children to send to them, or if it's a pedophile recording these children doing this, or if this pedophile has gotten so many images of this one child that they are able to make a profile with that child's picture and all of their videos, say that they are a child, to get other children to send them images of themselves so that they can in turn sell that material.
Absolutely.
We don't know if it's actually a 12, 13, 14-year-old child that is actually doing this willingly, or if somebody is forcing them to do it. So we have to turn it over to law enforcement. It doesn't matter if you say you're 12 years old and you're selling sexually explicit images of yourself. You are part of the problem. You are encouraging pedophiles to get free or very cheap CSEM material, and it's fueling the problem.
And it's still illegal, whether they're a kid or not. It's illegal in most states. And on the internet, there is no state lines. You know what I'm saying? There's no country lines. There's no borders. So everything, it's open season on the internet. So we can't even go by law like that.
No, because depending on what country it says that the profile is based out of, they have such lax laws for the age of consent in certain countries that Twitter, or the corresponding platform that these children are using to distribute this material, will go ahead and say, well, they're legal age in their country, so technically they're allowed to distribute this material, which is not true. It is still child pornography. No matter how you look at it, it's still illegal. It's still a minor performing sexual acts either on themselves or another child, and it's still illegal. It doesn't matter the age of consent in the corresponding country. It does not matter. It's still illegal.
Child pornography is illegal in every country, regardless of the consent age. And the Philippines only just last year changed the age of consent from 12 to, I think they changed it to 16 or something last year. Now that shouldn't even be a question. 12 years old. And they're not the only country, but they were the biggest one. And that was probably the youngest. And still.
And they're laxing these laws all over the world. I mean, even in California, I don't know what is going on, but they're basically making it okay to have sexual contact with children.
Yeah.
Through the law.
Yeah. Yeah. The 10-year thing. Yeah. Last year they changed that law to, it's no longer illegal, 14 and above, to have it like a 10-year age difference, I believe it was. Which is a problem.
A 14-year-old should not be able to engage in sexual activity with somebody that is 24 years old under any circumstances. And under no circumstances should a judge be given the power to decide whether or not, if that child comes forward and says that they were sexually abused, whether or not the judge is the one that gets to decide if they were actually sexually abused or if it was consent. If a child comes forward and says they were sexually abused, what right does the judge have to say that they weren't?
Absolutely.
They're going to take the root. They're going to take the word over the pedophile that says it was consensual over the word of the child. Basically, that's what that law allows.
Yeah.
If there's a good enough argument or good enough proof that this could have been consensual, the pedophile will walk.
And it's really not consensual. It's, you know, it's coercement. It's, you know what I mean?
Children
It's
cannot consent.
consent. I'm sorry, they can't.
There's no such
I
thing as a
think they
willing
can,
child.
but they can't.
We're basically making it okay to rape kids in America.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's mostly because there's so much of it going on, they can't possibly control it. Kind of like how they, you know, they legalize pot because they know our justice system is overwhelmed, and you know they don't have enough space in jail for anybody committing that crime, that particular crime or whatever. I think it's the same thing with a lot of this stuff too. It's just that, you know, they can't handle it anymore, so they just lower the standard.
So let's just go ahead and normalize it.
Yeah, just let's just
Let's go
legal.
ahead and start teaching kids in kindergarten sexual education.
Ugh,
Let's
really.
tell them that it's okay for their 4 or 5-year-olds to watch porn and engage in sex play. This is out of control. This is America. But we're walking around here acting like it's not. Don't want to really point my finger at other countries or faiths, but I mean, this is America, guys. We're like supposed to be totally against this shit.
Yeah, totally. And it, you know, it's got a lot to do with the lax laws, like we were just saying, that really needs, we understand that most people can't handle, you know, what we do. And we don't, I never try to push anybody to do what we do exactly. But there are plenty of things that you can fully do. You know, advocate for these laws. Look into some of these laws that are not in place. Look into, you know, a lot of these things that are allowing this to happen, and make some noise. I mean, I hear nothing about it all the time. Do you know, like for instance, with us, Twitter, you would think like maybe there's, you know, somebody, you know, overseeing these things and making sure that, you know, children aren't being abused there and exploited. And no, there's not. They're not even required by law to look for it. It's only if either A, it's reported to them, or B, if they happen to find it, quote, happen to find it. So they're, you know, if they stumble upon it, then they have to report it. If not, they could just let it go. And who says, you know, that they're actually reporting it? They just got caught too. They just got caught destroying evidence. They suspended some accounts and didn't hold the evidence for law enforcement, and didn't turn over the accounts that they suspended. Now the evidence is gone. This is happening in India. They're having big trouble in India right now, and also Russia. So it's these kind of things that allow this to happen. You know, there should be some kind of task force for the internet in general, not just Twitter or any of the other ones. They should be required by law to do everything they can to avoid this situation. Or how about, you know, there's 13-year-olds allowed on Twitter. They allow regular adult pornography like it's nothing. Since I thought it was, you know, 18 to view pornography in general. No, because they make it pretty easy. And that's half the problem right there too. If they didn't allow adult pornography on Twitter, these distributors of child pornography would have nowhere to hide, because anybody, you know, scrolling and you see something like that, it's going to be obvious. So that's a big problem. There's just so many things that really need to change.
The fact of the matter is, when Twitter got caught distributing a child being raped on video through Pornhub and many other instances where they have been caught blatantly allowing videos like that to stay up after being reported multiple times, saying that there is a child within them, and they leave that material up to continue to get views, to continue to make money off of that material. And if you think Twitter doesn't make money off of child pornography, you're dead ass wrong. Of course they do. Of course they do. fact of the matter is, they're not, all of a sudden, they're not responsible for making sure that it's not there. What about Backpage?
Mhm.
Twitter should have been shut down just like Backpage as soon as they found out that children were being filmed and the material was being distributed on an open platform. Twitter should have been shut down immediately.
And they know about the use of their hashtags too. They know. They know that they're using these hashtags, and yet they're still allowed. And these are hashtags. These words, the combinations of these words that they're using in hashtags, it can only be one thing. There's no purpose for these words being put together in a hashtag other than that. It's disgusting. I won't even repeat the words, actually.
So these traffickers know that they can get these kids across our border. They can get these kids into these rings. They can get them onto the streets without barely any repercussion whatsoever. And then they can film this material. And like I said earlier, 2 out of 3 children that are sex trafficked are sex trafficked on the internet. They go ahead and then they take this material and then they sell it on the internet. So they get to make more money off of one victim. And it's a never ending cycle. Big tech is working with the federal government and helping children be sex trafficked in our country. It's a fact. Not only that, but investigations are being thwarted because the FBI agents that are supposed to be investigating these human trafficking cases are getting caught having sex with the human trafficking victims, and the whole entire investigation is being thrown out the fucking window. Tell me how that happens. Our FBI investigators investigating human trafficking cases are paying for and having sex with human trafficking victims, hence the whole investigation being fucking thrown out the window. A 3-year investigation. Pretty sure Chris has got the link to that somewhere. That just happened last year.
Just sent it.
Yeah. Federal agents paid for and had sex with trafficking victims amid investigation. This is what's happening.
How many people work for NCMEC?
I think they have a total of, what was it, Chris? Like 4,500 employees or some shit?
No,
can't
they
remember.
have 30. No, they have 30 analysts looking at this material. 60,000 reports per day. 30 and 30 analysts. They have one main office that deals with online reports in Virginia. One office, 30 analysts.
I thought I saw you say that, Chris. That's why I
Yes,
wanted to make sure.
That's a fact.
I thought you were being like entirely.
I don't even think it's it's 30. It's, I think it was under 30. It was like a couple of places said a couple different things. They probably have like turnovers or whatever. It's between 25 and 30 for sure.
Now you have to wonder why such a low, incredibly low number when Biden just hired 80,000 people, new IRS people, to go after the middle class for money for DCF and the FBI and everything else. I mean, it's just stunning.
It's
Really
ridiculous. It's
30
completely ignored. It's ignored. I mean,
Unbelievable.
that number astonished me. I just
It
how
is
can they,
astonishing.
and they get reports from the entire internet. Yes, they're the one agency for our country, but they get reports from the entire world. And they have to forward them to the other countries that they belong to. Because if you live in the US, you're told to report to NCMEC, which they then forward to wherever it needs to go.
I mean, there's no way humanly possible they can
No.
keep up.
So we wonder why, we don't wonder why they're getting away with it so often. And why, we shut down every single day. We shut down the same exact distributors. 3 seconds later, 5 seconds later, sometimes maybe 20 minutes later, there's another account up already. And it goes for another 24 hours. So we shut it down again. Then the next day, the same thing. Over and over and over and over.
I do have to say, though, something is happening at NCMEC on a big ass scale, though, because I just saw one article where within 3 days of NCMEC getting a cyber tip report Within 3 days, the cops were at that pedophile's door that was distributing that child porn, and he was in custody. 3 days.
Yeah. Well, they will. They'll there are arrests that come out of it, and that's really, honestly, that's what keeps me going, because knowing that there's a chance. But the problem is that it's so far and few in between that they can actually identify any of these people. Online, when you're online, it's very much anonymous, and you know, the distributors know that they're not gonna let their identity be known in most cases. So those few arrests that you do see coming from these cyber tips are because they were able to, you know, identify and go after them.
And you guys,
I
the
would
younger the
love to.
child, the harder it is to identify them, and the
Mhm.
harder it is to find the trafficker as well. So that's why they're finding younger and younger kids to abuse and record, because the chances, they're a lot easier to hide. Younger children are a lot easier to be kept inside. Don't have to take them out as much. They don't go to school. They can't go out to see the bruises. So these kids that are being the newborn babies to age 5 years old that these detectives are talking about, the number of these kids being abused and recorded is dramatically increasing, because they're easier to hide. They're easier to keep inside. They don't go to school. And the reason why so many of these exploitation cases are rising during COVID is because these kids are locked down with their abusers. They're
Mhm.
locked down with their traffickers. They're not being seen by teachers and people that report child abuse, or are mandatory to report child abuse when they see it. So if they're not going to school and these teachers aren't seeing them, or they're not going out in public to grocery stores and people aren't seeing how dirty and bruised up they are, they're a lot easier to traffic. And those kids do not live very long. The average lifespan of a child sex trafficking victim is 2 years.
And you know what else is with these young kids? I gotta say, I've seen a lot of reports that they think it's really also the fact that all these pedophiles are out there looking for younger and younger, because there's so much available. Their threshold is so much higher now. Do you know what I'm saying? Like they need to go farther and farther and farther. They need younger, and they need more violent, and they need just horrific things. And that doesn't stop. That keeps going. I mean, I don't know what more they could do or need, but, and it's all available, and not even on the dark web. You don't need to go to the dark web at all. It's all available right there in the open.
Also, with this COVID too, I read 80% of teenage girls are selling themselves in some way online for money.
OnlyFans, they got caught. OnlyFans is they have minors. You know, and OnlyFans is all over Twitter. I know it's on a lot of other websites too, but we see them all the time, and there's no way to know. You can't, you know, you can't prove that someone's 16 or 17 and not 18. It's very hard.
And these websites are not requiring valid identification when these girls are making these profiles. Also, it is very easy for a human trafficker to obtain false identification for a child. 16-year-olds can be made to look like an 18-year-old very easy, as well as a 15-year-old. And if you got somebody that can make you fake IDs for these kids, you can get them on these websites, no problem. That's free money. That's
Yeah.
$20 for an ID saying that this 15-year-old girl is 18 years old. And you better believe those videos of those younger girls get watched 3 times as much as the videos with the adult women doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why these girls are now going out and using these filters to make themselves look like teenagers, and are doing this shit to get more attention as 30-year-old women, because they know they're going to make more money if they look like kids.
And the reverse also. The you know, all these filters now, you can kind of tell sometimes, for the most part, you can tell when they're using a filter to look like a kid, but I'm sure they're getting better and better at it, where, you know, it might be an adult who's using a filter to look like a, you know, 8-year-old or something like that. And that's a problem too.
It's also another problem, the mothers in this country not paying attention to what their daughters are doing as well as your sons. Um, I hear a lot of mothers say, "Not my daughter. My daughter would never do something like that." Did you just hear what we said? One out of how many girls are now posting pictures of themselves and probably getting money on the internet for it?
80%.
80%? Okay, so don't think for 1 second that my daughter would never do something like that. Parents aren't paying close enough attention to what their kids are doing on the internet. I do not know why parents that allow their kids to have social media accounts and Facebook accounts and shit like that, why they don't have their passwords to their accounts.
It is a shocking number. It's very shocking, but if you really think it through, the state of the world
One
today, the
1 in
internet,
4 kids gets a sexually explicit message on the internet, 1 out of 4.
yeah,
So it's really not that astounding that so many young girls would choose to dress up in skimpy clothes and sell images of themselves for $5 a piece, you guys.
I agree with you.
$5 a piece for
I
nudes.
agree with you, mother. I totally agree with you. But, some people will think, like you said, not my daughter, but, you think of the world today, you think of 14-year-olds at a sleepover. One's already done it. They convince each other. It keeps going. This has been going on for years. Now we have COVID. They're all home. Now we're at 80%. It's really not shocking when you think it through, but to other people, that number is astounding.
Listen, mothers out there, if your daughter is spending an exorbitantly amount of time in her bedroom, she's wearing clothes that she doesn't normally wear, makeup, she's spending a lot of time out with friends, she's coming home with money or items from the mall that you didn't give her money for, she doesn't have a job. There's something going on. She's getting that money from somewhere. And so is your son. And if you think little boys don't sell themselves to pedophiles, you're dead wrong. Little boys make bank on the internet selling themselves, doing the dirty on the internet. It's astounding. And these kids are selling these images of themselves doing this stuff for $5, $10 a piece. Files full, gigabytes full of material for $5. That's what these kids will do for money these days. And they're doing it at an exorbitantly high rate. I see it all day, every day. And a lot of them you can tell are the ones that are doing this because they're the ones making these videos. There's little cute little Snapchat videos that they think they're so cute. Standing in the bathroom doing this stuff with nobody else around. So it's them doing it on their own, thinking they're hot shit, selling child porn. I find them on the internet or one of my crew member finds them on the internet doing this shit. They're going to get reported for distributing child porn and you're going to have a cop at your door.
When's the last time you saw a kid mowing a lawn for $5 or $10? They're all doing something else because they're not interested in real work. I mean, just think about that. I couldn't get a kid in my neighborhood to mow the lawn. They're getting money. All these kids are getting money from other places. And you're right.
It's a very serious problem. And if you're not paying attention to what your kids are doing on the internet, somebody else is. And if your kids are coming home with money or they're spending a lot of time alone in the bathroom, your daughter's dressing more provocative, she's wearing makeup, anything like that's going on, you might want to keep a little bit closer attention and pay a little bit more close attention to what she's doing because chances are it's not good. And we are finding accounts constantly on Twitter saying child rape is okay. Okay? This is constant. They're waiting and they're watching these kids and they're being groomed and kidnapped and put into human trafficking rings at a rate that I can't even imagine. And there's no actual number for how prevalent it is because these children do not report when it happens to them. Hi, Dad.
Hey, how are we doing today? I see we've got some really important information going here, so I'm not going to interrupt. Just trying to find that damn graphic you sent me so I could put it on Gitter with the panel. I don't know how much longer you got left.
I just want to talk about one more thing really quick. Another problem that we are having in my very, very small town right now, and I live in a town probably of a population of about 30,000 people. And when the college kids are here, we might have 45,000. Every single day, there is a new immigrant family standing outside of Walmart with a sign saying that they lost their job with their kids standing out there, of course. They lost their job, they need money. Right behind them, there is a sign that says Walmart now hiring. I thought we were bringing all of these illegal immigrants to this country to help build our economy and work. Yet in my very small town, I've got 4 different families coming out every day of the week to stand on the corner to beg Americans for more money. Every single business in this country is suffering right now because they cannot get people to work because our government has incentivized people to stay home and get paid. And now that all of these people have come here to get jobs and work, they're just going to stand on the corner and beg us for money as well, with their children in tow. And who knows if they're even their children? I wonder that sometimes. I really do. I want to know when we're going to do something about this. I don't know how many of you guys live in small towns that are experiencing this, but I'm pretty sure it's probably a good amount of us. We have so many homeless people on our streets right now that we can't even take care of. They're overdosing on drugs. They're infecting everything. They're shitting in public. They're vandalizing, burglarizing, beating women in public, stealing their purses. Crime is at the highest it has been in decades. And we are accepting people from other countries that have been released from prison in their country, and they go to prison for really bad stuff over there, are getting released and are just coming right into our country. But we're being told that they're coming over here to better our economy and because they need help. This is bullshit. And as much as I hope and pray Trump is going to be reinstated, and I'm pretty sure he is, there's no fucking way he's going to be able to fix this. We've had over 1 million people come across our border in the past 6 months alone. There's no way. How are we going to deport all those people? What about the kids that came over here with no parents? We are stuck with these kids for life now.
Well,
I'm just saying.
the other side of that coin, Sweet Pea. Honestly, it's not. We are stuck with these kids right now. Um, Honestly speaking, these kids are being sent off to different areas. Nobody knows where they're going. Nobody has any ID on these kids. Nobody has any kind of tracking on these kids. Honestly, I do believe in my heart that the child trafficking organizations that run rampant here in America are taking truly advantage of what is happening right now. And, the most that America is going to be stuck with is the older, elderly that come through the border that will absolutely turn no profit, so they will be ignored. But in my mind and what I've seen in my dreams, um, there's a lot going on here, and hopefully we have someone watching that knows exactly where they're going, and that leads to the bus later on after everything is revealed by before the end of the year. But we all need to pray for these children, because it wasn't their fault that the Biden administration invited them over, and the coyotes paid their parents to send their children forward. Okay, that's just like, hey, you know what? It's no different than the mainstream media selling you and me out at a local level. Okay, the mainstream media has turned into everything CNN, MSNBC, ABC, and all the alphabet networks are. They betrayed us all. So that shit happens everywhere. People will do anything for a buck, even sell their own children. So, in my closing statement here, a lot of these children that have come across the border, they're gone. They're done. They are involved in child sex trafficking and child sex slavery, pretty much. So it's, everything we do, or my people do as dragons, that take down these they are criminal websites every day. This is the same crap that leads to this. And this is why they have to be stopped. And this is the fight that engaged with Danny from 2015. And it's been ignored all the way up till now. And just now, when Trump came in office, now it's taking hold. So it's getting better, but it's not getting better fast enough. And obviously, with a surge of illegal immigrants, like I said, these people are having a heyday. You think the coyotes are making a heyday on money on smuggling people across the border? Jesus, just think what the American side, child sex trafficking side, is making. And that right there should wake the hell up out of anyone, because it's real. It's happening, and it happens every minute of every day.
My point here is we're not stuck with these children. We're stuck with taking care of these children and footing the bill. These foster care systems and these foster care homes are going to be getting an exorbitant amount of money to take care of these kids, while forcing our own American children out of these foster homes and onto the streets. That's my problem here. We're not even worried about taking care of our own kids at this point. Now we're going to have to worry about taking care of these hundreds of thousands of other kids coming across the border, when we literally already have a system set up in this country to sex traffic children. In our foster care systems, in our school systems, our children are being abused in our school systems at an unprecedented rate right now. We have no control over the system and what is happening to our own kids with legal kidnap, kids being removed from good families and shoveled into foster care homes where they're coming up missing, sex trafficked, and abused. And then we're going to have more of these kids coming over here and put in our foster care systems. Not only that, but these supposed sponsors, that our tax dollars are going to go to these sponsors to help them take care of these kids. These sponsors don't get money from the kids' parents in whatever country they're in. We give these sponsors money to take care of these children, yet we don't get to know who these sponsors are. We don't know if they have criminal backgrounds. We don't have any identification on them or the children, because it's confidential information. So in all actuality, we have no idea where these kids are going or where our money is going. Is it going to some sex trafficker that is trafficking this child? We have no idea, but they're going to get the money anyways. Do we know that this child is safe and okay? No idea, but they're going to get the money anyways. This is my problem. This is my point here. We are not stuck with these children. We are stuck paying into a system that is making sure that these children are not being taken care of, as well as putting our own American children on the back burner, as they are being also kidnapped and sex trafficked back across the Mexican border by these cartels. So these cartels are bringing their kids over and taking our kids back across the border. This is a huge problem, and it's going to get worse because nobody is addressing this situation at all. And these sponsors, a lot of the time, are working with these coyotes and these traffickers to get their hands and get these kids into their possession so that they can continue making this money off of them, as well as collecting our money to supposedly take care of them. This is billions and billions and billions of dollars. We're losing $2 billion a month right now just by not having that wall built. $2 billion. Our economy is collapsing. People are starving in the streets. And we're taking in more people than we can feed. Our crops are not producing. We don't have the resources to take care of these people, let alone their children. We can't even take care of our own. And these children are going to be the ones that suffer for it the most. The children that have been brought here against their will, these children that have had their parents just give them up to these coyotes, hoping the best for them, when a lot of them end up being sexually abused and molested on the way over here. DHS is having to administer rape kits at an unprecedented number to children coming across the border. These rape kits will be held for years and years and years and not put into a database and compared against other known offenders for years. These rape kits will sit there. These kids will not get justice for what has happened to them being trafficked here, not to mention what's going to happen to them once they're here. America is a hub for human trafficking. We beat the Philippines.
I want to make sure you, me, Christine, put together something on that so that I can not only share it, but post it on Gitter and Gab. You know, my Gitter account, it's climbing, it's slow. It's because I couldn't use my real name, SSG Payne, because they said it was reserved for me. Well, how are you going to reserve an account for me that was freaking so like I said, yeah, I was banned in 2020. So how the hell are you going to reserve an account for me? Anyhow, so anybody listening on
Dad, Chris is recording this, so she will have a full recording for you when we're done so that you can listen to it from the beginning since you missed so much of it at work. We did discuss a lot of this earlier, but she is recording it, so you will be able to get the whole recording from her.
Yes, you know what? I checked and it some reason it stopped in between, so it's going to be in 2 parts, but I will get that to you. And we're going to hope for the best next time with the recording. But I recorded both parts, so we'll see.
Thank you. So I want to put a report together for this rape kit ordeal and the justice that these innocent children, you know, like I said, you know, I'm not deeply religious, but as I told God and everybody and Chaplain Jim, I was raised on one part of the Bible: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And so therefore, when I know these children are not responsible for their parents' actions, you know, this was greedy in many parts by their parents' actions to send them unaccompanied to the border of Arizona and Texas. So yeah, this rape kit thing, I do believe the Dragon's Den needs to make a spectacle of this, and we need to make a spectacle of the people in charge, period.
Definitely.
I'll send you a link on it, Dad. I was absolutely shocked and appalled when I read it. I cried, actually. These DHS agents having to administer these rape kits to these very, very small children. it's like it's breaking these border patrol agents down with what they're seeing every day, and they are not going to be put into a database for a really long time. And a lot of these kids that were sexually molested and raped on their way over here, that happened by cartel members and coyotes, and we don't have their records. So unless they were arrested in America and deported back to Mexico and we got their DNA, we will never know. And these kids will not get justice. It's 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 appalling, but it's happening every single day. They ran out of rape kits for these kids. They ran out.
Well, I'll go on record right now telling God and everybody that DHS, Department of Homeland Security, was created on a false premise by George Bush Jr. over the 2001 attack on the Twin Towers. And this was all for nothing. Nobody had to die in the Middle East. Nobody had to die, period. And Jay Johnson, the same son of a bitch that said that patriots were a threat, a national security threat, that right there tells you all you need to know, that DHS was just another goon army created to do the ill will of the deep state. And the DHS does need to be, they need to be annihilated. I mean, by us, we the people, defunded, put out of business, gone, bye-bye. Because this is a standing army we don't need. And the sooner that people realize this, and what, you know, with TSA and everything else, that the bogus shit that they put us all through just to fly to state, yeah, this is bullshit. This is long been over from 2001, and they carry this shit on just like they're trying to carry on this bullshit with COVID-19. And so the more that all of us as Americans come out to expose these jackwagons every day, and it takes all of us, even the Dragon's Den, mix up everything with your post. You know, don't make it just about one thing, mix it up. And, you know, we got to show the people that, yes, we're doing one thing, but we're here with you on the other thing, because we're all in this together. And that's the bottom line. So, yeah, the whole thing about DHS, that, God, that pisses me.
Jackwagon. Dad, you're awesome. Anyways, you guys, thank you so much for joining us. This was kind of just a practice run, and I know it's a lot of information to take in, but you know how Mother is. There's always a lot of information to take in when it's me. And this stuff has been weighing on me for a while, and hopefully we're going to try to do this once a week. I would like to talk about this stuff once a week. Also, we are also going to be starting a missing kid channel. So it's going to be a never ending cycle of pictures of missing children in this country. Nobody is doing that. And if I had my way, we would be broadcasting missing kids on PBS or some kind of public channel on TV 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You could continuously go to that channel and just look at pictures of missing kids for the week, the month, the years past, all kinds of stuff. We are going to start a channel for these missing kids. The more people that join this channel and share pictures of these kids, the better chance we have of somebody seeing them somewhere in some country. And since we have so many patriots from so many different countries in a lot of these rooms that we are in right now, I think that it could be really beneficial and help some of these kids out. So we're going to start a missing kids channel. Also, every week before we start our show, I would like to post pictures of the missing kids for the week or the past couple weeks that have came up missing from our country. The faster we get people looking for the kids that come up missing in our country, the faster we can find them. hopefully before they get across the border or they get shipped out into international waters and across the ocean. So every week, I would like to start the first 10 minutes just dropping links of missing kids so that we can get the word out and get eye out and have somebody looking for these kids. Sooner the better. Also, talking about what is going on with the kids every week, the new articles that are coming out trying to normalize what is pedophilia. Basically, Teen Vogue is out of control right now with the stuff that they're pushing on our teen girls. The propaganda that's coming out, what's coming out for our new school curriculums this next year is absolutely appalling. More parents need to be getting focused on joining their city councils, their PTAs. Find out what your guys' curricular is for your children this year. Is it patriotic or is it smashing our country? Is it making them feel like a bunch of racists, or is it praising them for all of the things that we have overcome as a nation over the past 200 years? This is very, very important. They're trying to break down our children's morale, starting with the morals of this country. We cannot have that. If we lose our children, we're going to lose our future. We need to get more kids paying attention to our history and learning it for real, what happened, so it does not repeat itself. If you don't learn your history, you're bound to repeat it. And that's what's happening right now. We need to stop this. Kids beating up kids on the playground because of their skin color is absolutely unacceptable behavior, and it's breaking my heart. Every single week, I'm seeing pictures and videos of kids beating up other kids because of their skin color. I hate to say it, it's mostly black kids beating up white kids, and it's just breaking my heart. But that's the media that has done this. That is this administration that has done this. And if it continues to go like this, we're going to be even more divided, and it's going to start with our kids, which is exactly what they want. So I want to start talking about what's going on with our kids every week in the curricular that's they're being taught, as well as what's happening with human trafficking arrests, missing kids being found, stuff like that. I'd also like to get Dad doing a Patriot Hour every week. Dad is really busy, and Dad has a big voice and has a lot of support. Him talking to you guys about what's going on with whatever, you know, I hate to say it, but I pay mostly attention to what my dragons are doing and the kids. But there's a lot of stuff going on with the border and the investigations that they're trying to do, the investigations that they're thwarting, the audits. That speech last night by the president was not a speech. That was an address to this country. That was an address to the nation. That was an address to the world. Something huge is coming. Dad has a really big voice, and I would like to get him doing an hour in his own channel every week, but that's up to Dad. So once a week, I would like to start doing this, an hour for the children and an hour for the Patriots. Can do it probably Dad's days off are usually Mondays or Sundays. I can do it on Saturday nights or Sunday nights. The Dragons are pretty available to do it whenever. But I would like this to be a consistent, more regular thing because I think it's really important. With that being said, thank you for joining us. Go ahead, Dad.
I'll try to think up a game plan.
Gosh, Dad, you make it sound like I'm trying to pull your teeth out or something. Jeez.
Uh,
Anyways, thank you guys so much for listening. Chris, if you have any problems with the recording, just let me know. Hopefully it went well and we could try to figure out something. Also, we're going to try to figure out a podcast channel for us or somewhere we can upload these voice chats where people can go and listen to this every week. If they miss it, they can go back.
I have a channel set up for video, kind of a video archive type thing where I can post these also. When that's really set up more and I have more stuff in there, I'll post the link in Payne's channel.
We will. Thank you so much, Chris. My guess is that she will post the voice chat, and then she will post the information that was in the voice chat so that people can go ahead and do the research themselves.
Yes, I'll put it all in
That
a
would
link,
be my guess.
all in one post.
So thank you guys so much for joining us. Chaplain Chim, it was nice of you to join us. I saw you join us a while ago. Thank you for listening. I appreciate you.
And I also appreciate you and thank you for enlightening and educating me regarding the border issues. My mom was 100% Mexican. Her name was Nola Yarito, and those are issues of my heart because, you know, when it really hit me, I don't know, several weeks ago, they showed a child just standing by himself crying. But, anyways, thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. You're welcome. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it. The rest of you as well.
And Mother, I just wanted to say the page about the missing kids, that'll be up before next Sunday. And then maybe we can go over that page when we have more time, because I know we're kind of stretching it out now. But that might be something I could go over Sunday if you're okay with that.
Yeah, for sure. We will go over it next week and then we will drop a link to that room while we're doing the voice chat next week, and we'll start getting people in there and subscribe to it as soon as we can. I'll let the End Human Trafficking Note channel admin know as well, so we can try to get people in there and looking at those kids. That would be awesome. Thanks, sis.
Welcome.
All right, everybody, have a good night. Dad, it was so nice to hear your voice. I love you all.
Thank
Good
you,
night.
everyone.
Good night.
Night. Right
Thank
back
you.
at you. Good night.
Hey, Steel Rain, thank you for showing up. Love you, kid. Good night.